Has Unity irreversibly lost the trust of game developers? Obviously, many people would say yes, as with seemingly no concern for how it would affect the game developers who use the engine, Unity instated wide-sweeping changes that could impact all games ever made with this engine, even retroactively affecting games that were made before this announcement. But they've seemingly walked back almost all of these new terms to arrive with ones that seem much less offensive. Or is that all just corporate PR, aimed at making Unity look like they are listening, while still allowing them to slowly add more and more restrictions to their engine? I made a response to the changes whenever they were announced, and I'm approaching this from the perspective of someone who likes Unity and wants the engine to succeed. That hasn't changed, and I've still been using the engine daily, even during this controversy, but I also proposed some possible changes that I wanted Unity to make to the Unity Runtime Fee system. So I'll look at these new rules and see if they fit my idea of what I want from a monetization system like this. Ultimately, the question is, do I still want to stick with Unity for game development in the future? Well, I'll talk about that after going over the actual details of the announcement first. So the article from Unity is called An Open Letter to Our Community, and it's written by Mark Whitten, who is the president of Unity Create. Mark opens by apologizing, which is a good place to start. Corporate apologies often ring hollow, but it is important that they are actually acknowledging that they did something wrong with the policy and not just saying that it was a misunderstanding or something, even if bad communication was a big part of the issue. The first few changes are pretty big ones for Unity Personal. Now, there will be no runtime fee for games built with Unity Personal, but they'll be bringing back the maximum income amount allowed for Unity Personal users, with them being required to upgrade to Pro or Enterprise whenever their game generates over $200,000 in revenue. A quick reminder, with the previously proposed Unity runtime fees, it would have cost 20 cents per download for any game that makes over $200,000 for Unity Personal users. And I argue that this made little sense, and it just seemed to exploit people who accidentally get stuck on Unity Personal. So I'm all for this change. Secondly, they're actually finally removing the requirements for Unity Personal games to have the Unity splash screen before their game, which is awesome. This has been an image problem for Unity for years, where people would only see the splash screen before games made by personal users, which happens to include a lot of less than great games. Well, the phenomenal and successful games made with Unity usually remove or at least change the Unity splash screen because they use the professional edition. I think that this change has been a long time coming, as Unity really does not get any sort of good marketing from requiring this splash screen, and I'm always glad to see Unity Personal get more features. One note is that this will only apply for Unity Personal versions after 2024, which matters because of this next change. And this is the big change. The fee is no longer being retroactively applied to older versions of Unity, meaning that Unity will not be charging any games already released or currently being developed with runtime fees. Only games developed with the next version of Unity, releasing in 2024, will be subject to these fees. And more generally, they're bringing back the policy that you can use the terms of use for whatever version of the Unity editor that you are using. This policy was sneakily removed a little while before the runtime fee changes. It's disgusting that they ever changed it to begin with, and to be honest, I doubt they even had the legal authority to do that. But it's back, and please keep it that way, Unity. And finally, they are also redoing how they are pricing the runtime fees. Runtime fees now only apply to games that made over $1 million in the last 12 months. The confusing install-based self-reported model that they originally were pushing with the Unity runtime fee is still option, although they are now saying that instead of being based on installs, it is based on the number of new people engaging with your game each month, which doesn't provide any solid cost per engagement, and also doesn't mention install count anywhere. They go in depth to define just what an initial engagement is, with them stating that reinstalls and installs on different devices only count as one install, while piracy and development builds don't count. Once again, they haven't actually said how they're going to track this and make sure that your self-reporting is right, but I guess it is fine they left it as an option as they originally announced it, and I guess it could make some people angry if they were to walk it back. But they also gave the option to just do a 2.5% revenue share. This is half of what Unreal Engine charges to games make over $1 million with their engine, and it was more than likely a purposeful undercut. So yeah, those are the changes, and to be completely honest, they are far better than I expected. They basically did everything I suggested in my previous video, as well as a few extra things, like removing the splash screen requirement for personal, making the revenue share only 2.5% instead of 5%, and also offering the option for the install-based system if you prefer it. Now, it's not perfect still, and the most frustrating thing that I believe that they missed is that there was no mention if they will be repealing the requirement for Unity Personal to be online. Please remove this requirement. Unity runs just fine when offline, and this requirement will just prove to be a huge inconvenience for people with inconsistent internet connections. Online only DRM sucks. Don't do it, Unity. And also for people who use versions of the engine before this 2024 version that'll come out, removing the splash screen is still a lot more expensive than it used to be, with it requiring Unity Professional version instead of the Unity Plus, which is like $800 per year more expensive than Plus was. So that kinda sucks. But just looking over the announcement and the FAQs they have, it seems like Unity is doing a better job this time whenever it comes to having a system that is well explained and simple to understand. They basically addressed each and every criticism out there for the system, and personally, I'm absolutely fine with these new terms. It's just unfortunate that this had to be step 2 for Unity. and they started off this whole thing with a poorly communicated, greedy, and poorly thought out announcement that instantly destroyed their community and shattered the trust of developers everywhere. So do I think that Unity is doomed? Do I think that trust can ever be won back? Well, that's what I'm going to cover now. Also, before we continue, I'm developing a bullet hell RPG called Project Seaborn with a unique turn-based battle system, and if you want to follow the development of it, then be sure to subscribe. No, I do not think that things will ever be the same. This is not the first time that Unity has antagonized its developers, and I doubt it will really be the last, though hopefully this will be the low point. Lots of developers have already begun the process of moving engines from Unity to Godot. However, I do think that some will come back hearing of these changes, but many others don't want to have to deal with having the corporation of Unity in control of the main tool that they use in every day. I think Unity's actions didn't just break many people's trust in Unity, but also in privately controlled software in general, and I think that many people will be trying to move towards open source tools whenever possible. But what about me? After all, I'm the most special little Unity developer out there, making their dream game and sharing life-altering tips, or whatever my thumbnails say. Well, I'm sticking with Unity. The update does really help, but also I just have a lot of things invested in the engine, and the main one is my project. It's pretty much 90% of the work that has been done on the project has been done with programming scripts and making things in the Unity editor. So I pretty much lose everything but the art, some of the animations and UI, and some design decisions if I switch to an engine like Godot. After this project is over though, I'll probably switch to something else for my next main project. And I would really like to have it open source, just to keep things simple. In the meantime, I'm making stuff in other engines and without engines on the side for practice and experience anyways, as I don't think it's a good idea to be completely tied to one tool, as Unity has made very clear, so I'm working on it. Thanks for watching. Do you agree that Unity's new updates to the changes is a good one? Also, has this update brought back your trust in Unity at all? Comment how you feel down below, and be sure to subscribe to follow the development of Project Seaborn. The 200 days video is getting ever so closer, but first I have to finish 200 days of development, so I'm gonna go do that. Bye.